Friday. I hope y'all had a wonderful week. We're going to try to get some more racing in this weekend, hopefully Saturday or Sunday. It's supposed to be a little bit cooler, but I think we'll be okay. So we're going to try to go get some more passes in, try to get some more data. We've got our no prep race coming up in just a few weeks, February 29th at Fayetteville Motorsports Park. We got two classes, a small tire class and the true street class, along with test and tune. So make sure y'all come out. My last video, we were at Thunder Valley. We made some passes. I showed y'all a little bit of data, but I'm gonna go show you the data, exactly what happened. I'm gonna go through it. I've been looking at it for the last few days. Just gonna show you exactly, what happened and what the boost was doing and what everything happened when it was kicking the tires and what it was doing when it made the clean pass. So this is gonna be a data log video. So check this out. Here we go. We got the Holley software. This is, I use the version 4. I'm way behind times on my car. But anyway, so this is my folders that I have. So you can see I've got this one right here. That's my dig or die tune-up that I had. So that one is, I did save it after the race. So since I had a good tune-up in that one. So this is the one I constantly modify every time I go to the track. Okay, so I'm going to show you. This is what we had in the car, the very last pass. It was leaving on, target was 10 PSI. I had that scramble on, but it didn't, obviously I didn't hit it. I was planning on hitting it one of those passes, but I ended up not. Coming over here, it was leaving on 10 PSI. The boost time, it was leaving, this is very important when you're building the curve. A lot of times people mess up and they'll put this down at 0. And so what happens when you do that is you've got your 10 pounds of dome pressure while you're on the trans brake, and then as soon as you let go of the trans brake, this first point right here, this is where it goes to. So if this is 5 or 6 or 0, then it's going to dump it, and then then it's going to start going. So that's going to cause you some problems. Now occasionally, if the track is really good and we're trying to go really fast, leave it on 10 pounds on the trans brake over here, and then this first step up right here would be 14 or 16 or 20 PSI, and then the ramp is a little, a little quicker. So that really helps in making the turbo, follow the curve. So this is one of the things, this is the setup that I had. This is where it got tire shake pretty quick. So it left on 10, and then right here at 3.6 seconds, it was targeting 40 pounds of dome pressure, and 40 pounds of dome pressure made about 35 pounds of boost, I think it was. So let's look, pull up the data logs. And this is something else I do every single time. Every time I get back to the track, or when I'm at the track, when I'm actually at the track, I rename my data logs. And so this is, and you can do it by the date modified. And this is really helpful, because I've got everything. You can see, I've showed this before, but I put the date, where I was at, and then, what the car actually run while I was at the track. And this is super helpful. You can do this stuff and it'll help you a ton with trying to get, especially off the trailer, tune-ups. So it's definitely fun. So the first pass from this past weekend, I showed y'all that real quick. But you see I put a 510 at 127, 60 foot, and 147.8 mile per hour. So this is real important when you're doing it. You can come up here to this little clipboard, and then you can see right here, this is something I do every single time that I'm at the track. These are just kind of my notes, my general tire pressure, my suspension, what I ended up doing, what I did for the travel limiters on the front. So this is definitely helpful. And Holley allows you to do this. And so, it takes a little time to do it, but a lot of people don't even do it. And same thing with when you go over to the drag race, you can actually enter, the specifics. They didn't have the 330 clock working. So I didn't get a 330 time slip or time, but we got the 60 foot, the time, the mile per hour, and this thing automatically calculates your splits. So a lot of times, you hear a lot of talk about back splits, and that's what this is, from the 330 to the 660 to the 8th mile, and it'll figure that up. And a lot of things that people look at too, the first 300 foot of the track is probably the most important. It's usually going to run what it's going to run from the 330 to the 660, but from the 60 foot to the 330, that's where you can really make some big gains if you're real careful. If you that's where you want to pick it up at, but that's where it also depends on the track. So that was my fueling, the first one that popped up. That was my fueling that I have, and you can see this thing at that boost level, it's using 2,000 pounds of fuel, 2,075. It's almost 2,100 pounds of fuel. So that's not a ton of fuel at that power level. Duty cycle is over here. It's at 46%, so it's like nothing. So you can go through here, and red line is the RPM, green line is air fuel ratio, yellow line is boost. These lines down here are the green line is the target dome pressure, and the blue line is the actual dome pressure. And you can see this line is following it pretty close. You're going to have a couple humps here and there. I don't know if you can ever get it to follow 100%. It does a little bit here, but you know, that's you can probably play with your PID settings and possibly make that, you know, get a little bit better. So this was the 510 pass. So when you look, it left at, I had to set it 34,000 RPM, but it ended up leaving. It was on the trans brake from the time the data log starts at 85% throttle. So, you know, I pretty much flat foot it. So I bring it up just a little bit flat foot it, and it comes up. And so it took a little bit over 4 seconds, about 4.25 seconds, maybe 4.5 seconds from wide open throttle to launching to letting go of the trans brake. So that's not bad. That's okay. I can deal with that. So it left on 6.5 pounds of boost, and then it comes up. And you can see this right here is like your initial. You hear people talk about all the time about converter grab. See, it goes straight up to right there. And it was, you know, 0.2 of a second, and then you can see it starting to nose over here. So that's where that converter is grabbing. This is a PTC 16.1 converter. So it starts grabbing right here, 5,400 RPM, and then it comes, and then this right here is where it really lugs it. I was also mistaken. I thought I had a 331 gear in this car. I've actually got a 355 gear. So, you know, if I was trying to hit this thing, you know, really hard, a 373 or 390 gear would probably be beneficial. But this is just because I've got a lazy boost curve. So it comes up, it's making boost, it's following, you know, the curve pretty good. Comes up here, I shifted it pretty early, 7,400. Got to fall back down to 67. You know, when I really put some power to this thing, it usually falls back to like 7,300. So I normally try to shift it 78 to 8. So it comes up, follows the curve, gets up here. There's a 4.5 second ramp on the boost curve. You can see I got full boost at 4.85. So I mean, it was a little behind the curve. Usually it's about 0.2 behind, so that's about right. And then it goes up here, and then it goes through, you know, 510 and 147. So that was a good pass. I was very happy. I didn't get any tire shake. I think I got a little bit. It felt like it was moving around a little bit up top, but it wasn't terrible. Okay, so let's go look at the next one. So this was the first pass, and then the next pass. So you can do a comparison too. So if you look and you pull up the data log, the comparison is really handy. So this one right here is where I drove it out of the groove, and it was, you know, going right, and I ended up couldn't get it back in the groove, and it knocked tires off way out there. But it had a 123/60 foot. But something that's interesting is, so I like to do a comparison, and so that's real helpful. So you come up here and you hit comparison, compare data log, and then you can pick whichever one you want. And so that was the second run, and I was trying to get more aggressive with it because I wanted to go a little bit faster. So then you come through here, and now we've got this. You see, you got two runs. You got a dotted line and a solid line. So the solid line is the first pass. The dotted line is the comparison. So you can see, and you got the, you know, over here on this side, you've got you got 2 RPMs, you got 2 of everything, so you can kind of tell what the deal is. So you can see on the target boost for the second run, I was targeting 10, and the first one I was targeting 8. RPM was the same. I put a little bit more dome pressure on it, but you can see it didn't make much more boost. It made, you know, 0.3 pounds more boost, which is nothing, essentially. And right there, I mean, it was a half a pound almost. But you can see over here, the curve was different. This blue line up here is TPS, so I'm gonna get rid of that, so it doesn't clog up the screen here. So you can see I shortened the ramp up. It was the same target down track, so I had 40 pounds of dome pressure for the target down track, but the ramp was shorter. And so when you come out here and you start following it, you can see what is happening. So it's got a shorter ramp. Basically what I did is I went in here and I just backed it up. I think it was like 3.6 or 3.8 seconds. We'll find out here in a minute. And then I just, went straight up with it. So, but it started off a little bit higher, you can see, because the first time it was on 8 and then it was on, 10. So, and this data log, I mean, it shows everything when you're in there, when you're looking. So you can see here, I can duplicate this run, that 510, based on this data log. So it's, super easy to do. Okay, so it's coming up. So you can see it had a little bit more power in it earlier, and what I was talking about a minute ago, when you hit it with more power, it flashes harder now. Now, also, the converter is going to be a little bit hotter, so that's going to play a little bit of effect into it too, since the fluid is a little bit warmer. But that's just one of those things. And so you can see right here the converter difference, 6600 to 63. And at this point in the run, 1.3 seconds, the actual boost pressure, 15.1 was the first pass, and then 17.9 was the second. And you can see this right here, they start off the same, but this is a growing, wedge. It's making more. So the further we get out there, the more, difference you have. So right here at the gear shift, we got there to that point a little bit earlier. It was 2.5 seconds into the run, 2.5. Same thing about 7,200 is all it went. No, 7,600 is what it went to that time. And it fell back to 7,000 RPM. But you can see right here at this point, the boost was 5 pounds difference. So the first run was 24 pounds and second run was 29.5. And you can see right here, like I said, I don't have a data log on this car for the drive shaft speed. I need to get one. I think I'm going to disconnect my back pressure sensor and turn it into drive shaft. But anyway, so you can see it right here. I mean, it spikes up. So we were right here. It definitely spun. We were at 3.2 seconds in the run. So we were about half track when it done that, when it made that bad move. And the boost pressure was 5 pounds more. So 5 pounds of boost, honestly, is probably 200 to 300 horsepower. So it was significantly higher horsepower at this point level. And it got out of the groove, and, so, I mean, it wasn't the car's fault. I guess it was my fault. I wasn't keeping it in the groove. I didn't keep it where it needed to be. With it being, not really a radial prep track, you just can't. You got to stay in the groove to go. And as long as you're in the groove, you're fine. But if you get out of the groove, I should have lifted. I mean, honestly, I shouldn't have tried to, run it when, my left tire was in the middle of the track. Because that's just not the sticky part of the track. Unless you're on a super flypaper track and it's really sticky, then it'll pretty much hold as long as you're pretty much on the track for the most part. So that's where it knocked the tire off. And so, it was on the target, 36 to 30, or almost 37 to 30, 31. So, I mean, that's a big spread. And then you get out there, and right there is where it actually hit the curve. The 40 was at 3.6 seconds. You can see that up here on this. So that makes it very easy to duplicate. So that was those two runs. So let's compare. I'm gonna close that back out. And I didn't do anything I don't think I'd done anything between the second and the third run. It did go a little bit better 60 foot. Okay, so this is the second pass that it run, where it spun way out there. So now let's look at the third pass. This is where I got tire shake pretty early. It went at 122 60 foot. I think we increased air pressure. We went to I think this is the one we went to 16 pounds of air pressure on. So you can see, and the data log, so after you make a run to the data log, when you save it, if you click this right here, then this right here, this auto zero data log, when trans brake is less than 1, you hit OK, and that's how you get this time here. And it puts both data logs to the 0 point, and that's where you let go of the trans brake. So it makes it very easy to be able to see exactly, what happened and where it happened. So you can see when you're looking at it over here, all this stuff was exactly the same. I mean, I didn't change anything. I put a little bit more tire pressure in it. The 16, I think, this pass. I think we're going to end up needing to be about 17 or 18. It left on basically the same 6.9. It comes up, it gets right here. It's following, you can see that curve right there. I mean, it's following it exactly. So it was the exact same power level. boost curve coming up, I mean, that is, very, very close. Half a pound of boost max there. So it is coming, it's pretty close, and then it blows the tire off right here. That's where it got into tire shake. So it started shaking. It made it through the 60 foot, went on 122, 60 foot. This is right here where, the drive shaft data would be super helpful. You can see exactly where it started going, but you can kind of tell based on this RPM here. It starts coming up right here, and then that's kind of following the curve, but then right there, 1.94 is definitely gone. And then, within 0.2 of a second, it is done and gone to the rev limiter, 8,500 RPM. And so, it's very important to, look at this stuff and, try to figure out what happened. The track had gotten cold, it had been in the shade, and it just started shaking the tire. I also made a mistake looking back at the videos. I had, the pass before, it had drove to the right out there, so I wanted to make sure I was dead straight, and so I pulled up to the line, and it felt like I was kind of pointing a little bit to the right. It's my job as a driver. It's Randy's job and Brandon, when they're putting me in the beams and getting me in my tire track, they make sure I'm in the right spot on the track. But me as a driver, it's my job to make sure the car is straight. Now, obviously, they're going to look at it. If they see something way off whack, they're going to stop me. But my job as the driver is to get the car straight. I can feel it in the car. And so I failed on that one. It felt like it was pointing to the right a little bit. And so I backed up, probably about 6 inches, just so I wouldn't move the back of the tires, but I wanted to move the front tires over a little bit. And so I think I went just a little bit over to the left. And so looking at in the car, it felt like it was fine. But when you look at the video, you can clearly see that it was pointing a little bit to the left. And that's exactly what happened. It took off, front wheels come up, and they're barely touching. You're basically, the first 60 foot or so, 100 foot, you're really not driving the car. The car is doing what the car is going to do. So whichever way you point it and how your suspension is working, that's going to dictate if you go straight or if you don't go straight. So, I mean, it's one of those things that, it just went a little bit out of the groove again. Once it got out of the groove, it just, shook the tires off. So, I mean, it is what it is. We had a good time. We got some good data. And I think, looking at this pass here, this pass right here, when it kicked the tires, it kicked the tires at 3.2 seconds, and I think it went through at like a 5:30. I don't know if I put it went through at a 5:33 at 108 miles per hour. So that one right there, that pass would have probably been a 485, 490, somewhere up in that range. Probably would have been about the same mile per hour, getting the boost in just a little bit earlier than the first pass. It might have gone 150 miles an hour or so, which that's not bad. I mean, that's not bad at all. So the Hoosiers, the Hoosiers are not the cure-all, fix-all for tire shake and, perfect. Now, the track was sticky enough. It was wadding up the tire. I'm loving the Hoosier on a no-prep track. I mean, I love it. I mean, because the sidewall, you can see on the videos, the sidewall really takes some punishment. Now, I don't know how long the sidewall is going to last. That's one of the things with slicks. Sidewall starts giving up, and then, then you have problems. But I'm thinking keep going up in air pressure, 17, 18 pounds of air pressure. I mean, we might end up at 19 or 20 pounds. So I'm thinking maybe possibly when we get the air pressure up a little bit higher, it's going to be able to work a little bit better on the sticky track, and I'll be able to throw a little bit more power to it. Because the tire is working, but it will shake. But, the good thing is when it does shake, it doesn't shake near as violent as the Mickey Thompson Pro Bracket Radial. And, I guess the reason why is because the sidewall is softer and it's absorbing some of the power. So it's definitely interesting. But anyway, I just want to share this data log stuff with you. I didn't have much time in the video from this past Sunday to kind of go over the data log. I want to do more of these data log videos. I think it's helpful for people, just getting familiar with, how everything is laid out and how everything is working and what you're looking at. The Holley, I'm sure Fast and Fuel Tech is, great too, but the Holley is very, very, very user-friendly. What I'm hoping is Nahunta is going to be open on Sunday. They generally do a bracket race, and they have a lot of street cars, so it's not really, really, really sticky. That's where I blowed the tires off last time I was there when I was preparing for the no prep. I think I'm going to put the no prep tune-up back in it and go and see, what I can run there. There's very, very short stopping room. You don't have a lot of room to stop. With the car being heavier, I'll have to put that weight back on the car. So in the rear end, but I'm hoping this weekend I'll be able to go to Nahunta and we'll be able to get some more data getting ready for our race coming up at the end of February. And so we'll see what happens. All right, guys, y'all comment, like, and subscribe, and we will see y'all soon. Y'all go fast and get some win likes. Thanks.